Let's welcome Kevin Bacon to the stage.
Hi, everybody. Hi, thank you. Hi there.
Hi, Kevin.
Nice to see you again.
Good to see you too. How is everything?
Everything's good.
Good.
Thank you. How are you?
I'm very well, thanks. Good. So, tense. That made me very tense, that film. And you kind of shot it in between doing the following, so you kind of didn't really have that much time, so you had to be pretty choosy about your roles. What was it that drew you to this film?
Well, you know, I read the script and I thought I could see the whole movie from reading the script. That's not always the case. Sometimes you look at it and you go, here's a bunch of lines and I understand the lines, I get the dialogue, or I know basically what the story is. You know, it's boy meets girl or whatever. But in this, the way that they wrote it, the way that John Watts and Chris Ford wrote the script, it was like they were taking me on the journey, and I was picturing it. I 100% understood the character of my character. I saw what he looked like. I knew what he talked like. I could picture his clothes and his hair and the whole thing. And when I finished it, after, you know, very 90 or an hour of very tense minutes, I said, if these guys can put this up on the screen, I think it's going to be a cool movie. And I looked at a movie that the director had done that had not come out, and I could see that he had a vision, that he was a shooter, that he worked great with the actors that were in this movie, actors that I didn't know. They were not, you know, well-known actors. And so I signed on. You know, it fit great into the schedule. I mean, I kind of said, you know, listen, if you guys are ready, let's go out and make this thing.
And it was 17 days?
Yeah, 17 or 18 days of shooting. My part was maybe 6. The kids worked a little bit longer than me, and it was really fun because I'm used to making films. I've done a lot of independent films in the course of my life that are very, very quick, low budget, big page count. You know, a lot of stuff, a lot of things to get done in the course of your day, and I love working in that framework. I mean, I like doing big stuff too.
Yeah.
But to get out there and just run and gun and you know, go with your instincts, and all the people that were there in this very, very small town in Colorado were either family members of the director, because it was his hometown, or close personal friends, or people that really kind of believed in him as a filmmaker and who wanted to get in on the ground floor of making something cool.
And this is John Watts' second film ever.
Yes.
And the first one that he did was called Clown, and it was a horror film. And I just wanted to touch on the story of him basically creating the trailer for Clown. And he said, produced by John Watts, but directed by Eli Roth. And then Eli Roth, a few days after it had gone up online, called him up and was like, what the hell are you doing using my name?
Exactly, yeah.
And that story alone would make me want to work with a director, because that's some ballsy stuff, you know?
Hell yeah. It's like a great, cool idea. Him and his buddy were sitting around and they said, what's the worst idea for a horror movie? How about a guy who, the clown for his kid's party ends up being drunk, or whatever, and he has to go out and get a clown suit and take over for the clown. And then the party's over and he's a hero, but he can't get the nose off, he can't get the wig off, he can't get the costume off, it's attached to his body. And he gets possessed by this horrific kind of historical, evil kind of clown. And you know, clowns are scary anyway. I don't know if they're scary to you, but they're scary to me.
No, it's gnarly.
Yeah. And so he makes this trailer for this movie, and I don't know where they got the money for that. They probably, you know, shot it for a couple $100 or something, put it up on YouTube, 7 million hits or something, and they called it an Eli Roth film, as you said. And Eli Roth calls him up and goes, what's going on? And they're terrified because they think that they're going to get sued within an inch of their life. And he says, forget it, let's make the movie. You know, so I handed it to Eli, and he went out and got the movie for the guys. But that doesn't really matter if the movie was terrible.
Yeah.
But Clown is awesome.
Okay.
I loved
Everybody
it.
should watch Clown.
Oh yeah,
as
it's
well.
not really even available. I mean, I don't. It's never been released in the States. It's been out in Italy, and I think maybe it's out in England now. But I looked at it as a way into Cop Car, and I saw that this was a guy that has a lot of confidence and a lot of strength, and is really clear about his vision.
Yeah. Crazy young too, like early 30s, right?
He's 15.
It wouldn't surprise me these days, right?
I don't know how old he is. I don't know. Well, let's put it this way. He's way younger than me.
Oh, well. So let's get back to Cop Car. You play this corrupt cop. Tell me how you went about building this character. I know that, you decided that you wanted a mustache and maybe you were a little bit hunched. When you're trying to build a character, do you kind of like slope around your house trying out these new, different kinds of personas? And are your kids like, Dad's at it again?
Yeah. No, I do that to a certain extent. I don't look in the mirror and say lines. Like I've never felt that is really that good a way to inhabit it. I mean, I think that it's a combination of trying to build a backstory, especially with a character like this, because in the script there's very little that he says about himself. And when he does, he doesn't speak that much. And when he opens his mouth, he's bullshitting. Everything that comes out of his mouth is a lie. So how do you let an audience into who he might be? It has to be through the way he moves, the way he dresses, his hair, the props, the articles that he picks up, the way that he, I don't know, just does things. That's how you have to let an audience into this mystery of who this man is. Do I try it out? Sure. I mean, if there's something that you're thinking of in terms of a walk, you're probably better off starting to do it before you actually walk on set, just because it's like practicing anything else. It's like learning your lines or learning a dialect you need to practice.
And it's also something that you do to make mixtapes for characters.
Yeah.
So what would be on this sheriff's mixtape?
Well, I mean, it's probably a little bit of a cliche, but I think that he would be listening to outlaw country, what we would call outlaw country. I don't know, Willie and Waylon and the Boys, as they say, and Christopherson, and then going back probably, George Jones and Hank Williams and Dolly Parton, and then maybe also Leonard Skinner. He probably in the 70s had a moment of Zeppelin and maybe made his way all the way to Iron Maiden, stuff like that.
It sounds like a mixtape I would actually listen to.
Yeah, good stuff. And then I feel like he probably stopped at around 1973 and really hasn't ventured out musically
since.
Too much.
Yeah,
since.
okay. You do play creepy really well. But there's
All of a
also
sudden you seemed a little nervous when you said that.
But no, but there's also a humor to him, I think, which made me kind of like, well, so obviously you've created a multifaceted character, is what I'm basically trying to say.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's the question?
No, I mean the question, well, actually there's not a question. I would
Okay.
just like to see you in action, so we're going to show a clip of
Okay.
you being creepy comedic.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool.
There is a bit in the film where you run an awful lot. It's kind of a run, Forrest, run moment.
Yeah, right, yeah.
How exhausting was doing that? You were running across fields and plains and hills.
Well, yeah, it was it was hot and whatever. I mean, I used to run more, so I don't run as much, so I wasn't quite in the kind of running shape probably that was good for that scene. But truth is that what I kind of, my idea about one of the ideas about the physicality of this man was that he was probably, the captain of the football team in high school, but time has broken his body down. And he smokes and he drinks and he's probably been shot and then more than one bar fight. And that he doesn't do a lot of running. So there's the running, but there's also kind of the struggle to make it there. And it's nice in the film that you do see him kind of run out of gas at one point. And actually we shot a thing that John ended up not putting in the movie where I'm running and running and running, and I stop and just puke, which I loved, but I don't know. They took
I
it
can't
out.
believe that didn't make the cut.
I know, I liked it, but it was too gross or something. They didn't like it. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I had to run, and I had to run in these ridiculous cowboy boots. So, look, it's good work. I'm happy to have the gig. I'm happy to run. I mean, I like those kinds of challenges.
Do you feel like, because this movie is so spare, do you feel like, were you attracted to it because of that? And do you maybe feel like a lot of times in films, too many of the gaps are filled in? Audiences are too spoon-fed.
I do think that it's nice. I know from myself as an audience, if somebody tells me something in a way that I feel like I'm being led, and I know I'm being led, and the music swells, or there's something that is supposed to make me feel happy or sad or scared, but I know they're steering me in that direction, I'm a little bit more resistant of it. I like it when I have to kind of lean in and try to figure some stuff out. So that's not why I chose the movie, but it's something that I do like about it. I like the fact that it doesn't slam into your face. Certainly from the beginning of the film, it starts in a really kind of slow-paced, kind of languid way. These two kids are just kind of walking through the prairie, having this conversation. They're both challenging each other with curse words, and you kind of go, why? What's going on with them? What is this? This is a thriller? It's just two kids going, ass, asshole, dick, dickwad. They're just like having this great kind of conversation. But for me, it makes me go, wow, I'm not going to check my email. I'm not going to text. I'm not going to live tweet. I'm going to lean in and try to figure out what's going on in this story.
And let's talk about those kids. Their performance was great. They had just an amazing natural rapport. You didn't get a lot of screen time with them, but what was it like working with them? Presumably, I mean, it's like their first roles, right?
Yeah. I think they've done maybe some other little things, I don't know, but fantastic. Great to be on set with two extremely energetic, bouncing off the walls boys, those kids were exactly at the point in their lives that they needed to be to play this stuff in the movie. And for myself, I was only a few years older than them when I first walked onto a movie set. So I've spent my life in this world, and it no longer really is a world of wonder to me. It's a world of comfort and a world of home and peace. I walk into a set, I see a trailer, I see a crane, I know who the gaffer is, I could tell who the sound guy, it's like that. Like, I know that world. For them, it was like a question of wonder. They were like amazed and kind of wowed to be in this. So that's kind of infectious and great to see and fun to experience. Plus the fact that both of them were really good. My theory about child actors is that part of the problem is that a lot of kids come into movies or television by way of commercials and modeling. And commercials and modeling are kind of the polar opposite of what acting is. Because when you're told to, you know, that's kind of like the opposite of what being an actor is. An actor is like to take that camera and put it sort of as far away from your reality as possible, and to sit here and be, this is what acting is. It's like, I look at you, you look at me, we have this, and we don't worry about this thing that's over here. And commercials are a way of, creating a connection to something that you really have no connection to. You know what I mean? This is the greatest table ever. It's like, so when children oftentimes enter into the world of acting, they have habits that are sometimes difficult to break them of. And they also, sadly, have parents that consider themselves to be good directors and good acting teachers. So these two kids came in, and they were just like real, man. John Watts, the director, did a nationwide search and looked for a couple kids that were just real as they could be. I mean, when you see this movie, they don't have a false, fakey. There's nothing of you. You can't see a frame of this where you go, the kid's kind of faking it, or they had to like push him to feel something. You know what I mean? And in fact, he didn't even know there's these two. I mean, you guys haven't seen the movie, but they're two very different sort of boys, very similar in some ways, but in some ways very different. When he brought them out to Colorado, he didn't know who was going to play who. So he let them sort of work together for a couple of days, and then he decided it became clear to him that one was Harrison and one was Travis.
And who were you most like when you were a child?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think I was a little bit of a combination of both of them. I think in general, as a child, I was already a malleable presence, because I would be one guy with somebody and one guy with somebody else. One guy in one situation and one guy in another situation.
A shapeshifter.
I was a shapeshifter.
Okay.
I was. I think that's that's part of why I became an actor.
Earlier today we spoke and you said that when you were younger, no one could tell you anything and you didn't have a mentor. But I was wondering if maybe during the course of your career, some younger actors had maybe asked you for advice or sought some kind of mentorship with you.
Yeah, sure. I mean, they have, and they, sometimes they come up to me, and it's difficult for me because I want to be that guy that says that thing, that gives you that,
That nugget.
That nugget,
Yeah.
A lot of times, what I hear is, how do I get an agent? Things like that. And I completely understand that question, because I remember sitting there going, shit, how the fuck do I get an agent? I really, really get it. I feel like, and in the case of these two kids, you have to kind of learn by example. If you watch people work, like the first time I walked onto a movie set, I watched everything and everybody, and I didn't track somebody down and say, hey, how do I become an actor, or how do I act, or, but I did watch and I did listen, but not for advice. I feel like that moment where somebody takes you aside and says, to quote, nobody will know this reference, but to quote The Graduate, plastics. The guy takes Dustin Hoffman and he says, I don't know what to do with him. He's a young, kid trying to shape his career, and this old guy takes him aside in a party and goes, plastics. I never had that moment,
Yeah.
But I guess I have listened, and what I basically tell people when I have my go-to response is, you have to, if you want to be an actor, you have to want it more than anything. And you have to it can't be something that you're just kind of trying out until your mom makes you go to college, or trying out because your friend said you were cute. You know what I mean? It's you have to really, really, really want it, because it's a life that almost always will kick your ass, chew you up, spit you out, and you'll be thinking, what the hell was I thinking about, trying to be an actor? It's a very slim percentage of the people that decide that that's what they want to do that actually end up making a living at it. So what I tell people when they come up to me and say, can you give me some advice? I say, do anything else. Whatever you got something else you can do it. Get out of here. We don't need you. Don't do it. And if that person, the story that I hope that person tells is that they can say someday, Kevin Bacon told me to do anything else. Well, fuck him. Fuck him. I became an actor, and I made it in spite of what he said. That's the kind of skin that you need to have.
How'd you get so tough then?
Because, I don't know. I'm not that tough. I mean, I mean, what makes you think I'm tough?
Well, because you've been in the game a long time.
I don't know.
And, you've had setbacks and,
I've had plenty of setbacks.
Shitty times when you cried in the street.
Yeah,
I heard.
I think that, you have to learn from your failures. If there's a street that is the street that you need is the shortest distance between 2 points, but every time you walk down that street, you get your ass kicked, then sooner or later you got to either learn how to fight back, or you just got to take a different route. Those are kind of like the two sort of options. And that's like taking bad experiences and turning them into positive experiences. And maybe when you take the other route, there's a beautiful girl. I don't know, I'm going off now, I don't know.
So it's a long metaphor.
It's a long metaphor, yeah. I have no idea. I have no idea.
Well, let's see a little bit more of these two kids and watch the second clip. So, John Watts, the director, subsequent to this film happening, he has been picked up by Marvel, who want him to do the Spider-Man reboot. What do you think it was that the Marvel honcho saw in Cop Car that made them think, that's our guy for this huge blockbuster, that'll be his third film ever?
Yeah. Well, I wasn't surprised when I heard that. I mean, I have to say, if I was a studio and I saw that, if I saw this movie, I would say, yeah. Because I think it has to do with, first off, on a very, very shoestring budget, he made a movie that feels like a bigger movie, It doesn't feel like a little indie art house kind of festival movie. To me, it feels like a big thriller, Performances, certainly. Kids, I think the Spider-Man is a younger guy now, so he's more of a high school kid. So, there's that kind of ability to get a younger innocence and sensibility, coming of age kind of thing. And he also just has a way of putting the camera certain places. I mean, you look at that scene, if you want to do an analysis of that scene, he's there, he's on me in the car, and then my eyes shift, and boom, he pops outside wide and sees my head pop above that. And you go, you know what I mean? It's like you can feel what that does to an audience.
Yeah.
I wish I had that kind of an eye, directorially, to be able to say, that's what I want to do. And John, I guarantee you, he knew that. He knew when he wrote the script that he wanted that thing to pop outside and see him for the second. And he probably knew when he was going to turn around on the little boy. That kind of stuff is things that people have been making movies a long time. They have a good eye for seeing what a good eye is.
Okay. And just before we turn over to the audience, what are you working on next? What's coming out next?
The only thing that I have to talk about is a movie called Black Mass. I don't have my next job, and that's the only thing that I have in the can, really. It's a movie that I have a very small part in, but I'm very happy to be in. It stars Johnny Depp, Joel Edgerton, Benedict Cumberbatch, Peter Sarsgaard, Dakota Johnson. There's just like on and on. There's like a really, really big cast. And it's about a gangster, a Boston gangster named Whitey Bulger, who made a sort of nefarious deal with the FBI in Boston in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and then went on the lam. And Johnny is amazing in it. And it's a great movie coming out in September.
Watching that trailer actually creeped me out and made me laugh as well. It's the Black Mass.
Black
one.
Mass, yeah. That's I got to tell you, yeah. It's like a. My wife and I just saw it like a couple of weeks ago. It makes you laugh, but in this kind of like really sort of tense and uncomfortable way. Not unlike Cop Car, in that same sort of way. Scott Cooper, who directed it, is a fantastic director, and I'm very happy to be a part of it.
Awesome. Okay, questions?
Very nice to meet you, Kevin Bacon. You've been a big inspiration for me, and the following is one of my favorite things. I have a question. Was the actual liquid courage was ever an inspiration for you, maybe like in your past, like in your life in general, was, like, well,
alcohol?
Like alcohol, yeah, was ever inspiration for you?
I don't think it's ever been an inspiration. I'm unlike the character in the following. I'm not an alcoholic, but I do drink. But I don't think it's ever been an inspiration. No, I think that there was I once when I was young and impressionable. There was a scene in a movie where I was supposed to be drinking, and I said, "Well, I'm gonna try this because like this is what this is gonna be real. So I'll actually drink while I'm making the movie." And I did that, and it was great until take 3, and then all of a sudden I realized that this scene is going to take about 10 hours to shoot. So the idea that you're going to try to stay drunk for 10 hours and then that's going to have any kind of a positive effect on your performance is going to be an absolute disaster. So I don't really believe in performing other than sober. I think that's the professional line that I have drawn in the sand.
Kevin, you've done some amazing and ambiguous villains and heroes. Like, for example, you did the retelling of The Invisible Man. So are there classic heroes and villains that you want to get an opportunity to do a little bit of a retelling with that sort of level of ambiguity that you've been able to apply in both the hero case and the villain case?
There's really, when I get asked about things that I want to do, I wish that I had a list or I had an agenda of a guy that I wanted to play, a historic character, a character from, music or pop culture or even like literary character, but I don't really. I almost feel like I need to be more proactive in that way to say, well, my dream has always been to be blah blah blah, but I just don't. I know it when I see it, and I take it when it comes. You know, I like what you said. The thing that touches me about what you said is that it's people always go, well, you play a lot of bad guys, but they don't often talk about the fact that the good guys that I play are sometimes ambiguous in their goodness. And I think that what I find my job is, or the way that the things that I'm drawn to, is if I'm going to play a guy like this who is obviously not what you would call a good guy, he is still a human being and still at least maybe started out his life with the intention of being good. He's not a sociopath. He's not psychotic. You know, he's someone who entered into this world hoping that he was going to protect and serve, but he's obviously gone off the rails. By the same token, you know, a character like The Following, you know, is a hero for sure, is definitely drawn to doing the right thing, wants to do the right thing, but he's flawed. He's like deeply flawed. He's had some major fuck ups. You know, he's an alcoholic. He has done things that are morally ambiguous, and that ambiguity is, to me, what we are all made up of. And if our job as actors is to portray other human beings, then we have to embrace that ambiguity.
Thank you. Thank you for being with us today, first of all. I think it's really interesting what you say about actors and what advice you would give to them. I was wondering if you had given the same advice to your daughter before she got into acting, and if so, what she maybe responded with.
Yeah, that's a really good question. Yeah, that's exactly kind of what happened. You know, my daughter is now an actress. My daughter grew up probably getting the message from my wife and I, either directly or indirectly, that this was not a career that we were really supportive of. She went to, you know, pretty tough school, New York schools, and then to an Ivy League college, and turned around and dropped out and said, I want to become an actress. Now, at that point, she was an adult, and we didn't say, no, that's not happening. And truth be told, I cast her in a movie that I directed. But there was a certain part of that for her where she had to say, listen, I know that maybe you don't think this is the best thing for me, but I'm going to do it anyway. And that's going to be my first hurdle. And that's part of toughening yourself up. And I'm happy to say that she got through it. And now, at this point, what's really nice is that all of a sudden, you know, my kids have never really been all that interested in what my wife and I do for a living. We've never shown them our movies. They've rarely watched our movies. I don't honestly know that either one of them have even seen Footloose. My son is a musician, which I'm a musician too, but they don't, it's not like we tried to keep our professional lives and our personal lives and our lives as parents separate from our lives, you know, as actors. And what's nice about both my daughter and my son's current, you know, career paths is that now we're at a place, because we're adults, that we can actually discuss it, and I can actually talk to her and say, you know, yeah, you know, listen, one thing to keep in mind in auditions or whatever, you know, is this and that, and it's really fun. It's really, we have a really nice kind of engagement on that level now, and it's something that I really appreciate.
Hi, you're one of the hardest working actors, and your wife is also really successful. How do you guys keep your marriage together with such busy schedules, and why does it work? Because you guys are really cute together.
I give it another like 2 or 3 months maybe, and then you know, you know, I don't know. It's a good question. The only thing I can think of is that we enjoy spending time together. Sometimes people say, well, isn't it terrible having 2 actors in the both people in the business being in a marriage. But the truth is that, we kind of understand like what the upsides and downsides of this life are, and I don't think that she's someone who feels competitive with me, which is a really, really positive thing, and I don't feel competitive with her. We were like super, super supportive of each other on it from a career standpoint. And other than that, we just like make each other laugh, like to talk about things, like to do things together. I wish there was a magic bullet. I don't think it's really even so much about two actors being able to make it together as it is just two people. Look, marriages just don't, for the most part, work. They don't work for very long. Let's face it. I don't know the answer.
All right. Thanks so much for
Thank
joining
you,
us,
everybody.
Kevin.
Thanks for coming. Enjoy.